I want to read you from a news story that appeared today. It appeared in the Gray Zone, about the making of Juan Guaido, the installed new president of Venezuela. Here we go. Before the fateful day of January 22nd, fewer than 1 in 5 Venezuelans had heard of Juan Guaido. Only a few months ago, the 35-year-old was an obscure character in a politically marginal far-right group closely associated with gruesome acts of street violence. This is Juan Guaido that I'm reading to you from. Even in his own party, Guaido had been a mid-level figure in the opposition-dominated National Assembly, which is now held under contempt according to Venezuela's constitution. But after a single phone call from U.S. Vice President Mike Pence, Guaido proclaimed himself president of Venezuela. Anointed as the leader of his country by Washington, a previously unknown political bottom dweller was vaulted onto the international stage as the U.S. selected leader of a nation with the world's largest oil reserves. That's a heck of a statement, isn't it? This is a story that appeared today once again in the Gray Zone. Max Blumenthal is the editor of the Gray Zone, and he's good enough to join us now to take us through. This is the most incredible look at someone because it takes us inside the man. It takes us out of, this is not about the headlines that we've been seeing in all the newspapers and all the stuff. This is about who is this guy, right? And that's what this article in your publication tries to figure out. So let me just ask you point blank, who is this guy?
Yeah, and it's interesting, no other U.S. media publication seems to have taken a deep dive to try to understand who he is. I think that's sort of the deliberate. What Dan Cohen and I found here was so shocking that we felt that it needed to be reported in detail. And what we found, first of all, is that Guaido was a mid-level figure in a very unpopular party called Popular Will, which has been backed by the U.S. for years. It is one of the most violent and radical parties in Venezuela, directly connected to the violent guarimbas in 2017 and 2014, which left a total of some 200 people dead, including many of the security forces he's now trying to get to come out and rebel against Maduro. So,
and let us probably state that when it comes to Venezuelan politics, there's a whole lot of opposition.
Yes, and that's a great point, and I wanted to make that point. You know, when you talk about the people who support Henry Capriles, who is popular, or Henry Falcon, these people are not on board with the agenda of Guaido. You know, the data analysis, their pollster, Luis Vicente Leon, who's the top pollster in Venezuela, said most Venezuelans reject the agenda of Guaido because they don't want war. But the agenda of Guaido and Popular Will and the people around him is just that. It's war, and their real constituency is here in Washington, where they were trained with U.S. dollars to serve as the inner cadre of a destabilization campaign that began in 2007.
Well, what does that mean, Max? You know, you use the word trained. That's a loaded word. Who trained him? What's he being trained to do?
Great question. There's a group in Belgrade called Otpor, which is a student group that was backed by the National Endowment for Democracy, the regime change arm of the U.S., and even the CIA, apparently, to bring down Slobodan Milosevic with a series of tactics, popular mobilization tactics. They succeeded. And these Venezuelan activists were brought out there starting in 2005. Dan Cohen and I found these documents from Stratfor that outlined the training programs. And in one of the documents, they declared that when you see 4 Venezuelan universities simultaneously rising up in protest against Hugo Chavez, then you'll know the real work has begun. Juan Guaido was part of what's known as Generation 2007, trained by the CIA and NED-backed Otpor, that was brought into Venezuela to apply these tactics and destabilize the country. And they came to bear through various campaigns and plots, starting in 2010, a plot funded by figures from the oil industry that was nationalized, who wanted to take back control of the oil. Guaido was in those meetings as well. He's been at the forefront of every violent destabilization campaign, and we've even produced video of him being involved in these guarimbas. And yet now he's being marketed as this great democratic figure. This isn't about democracy.
Yeah. You know, we're down to a minute, but it's interesting because I've known the situation in Venezuela for years, being from Miami. And I think if somehow Maduro could be replaced by someone who is moderate and can bring the forces of the people together with the forces of what will work to make that economy better, that could be a really good country. But it seems like we're looking at two extremes here. Am I wrong?
Yes, and this extreme is being pushed by the U.S. because the U.S. actually does not want to bring all the sides together. They've rejected the talks offered by Mexico and Uruguay. And what they want is to push the most radical elements to destabilize the country and smash a socialist experiment so they can get control of the world's largest oil reserves again. That's what it's about.
Max Blumenthal, as usual, excellent reporting. Thank you for being kind enough to share with us that information.
Thanks so much, Rick.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.